Maritime Made on Eastlink TV is presented in partnership with Nova Scotia Business Inc., Nova Scotia's business development agency.
New homes are so tightly sealed for energy efficiency that it can be pretty tough for fresh air to enter the home and for stale, polluted air to get out. That's where Windsor, Nova Scotia's New Air ventilation comes in. New Air produces high-quality heat recovery air exchangers for homes and all types of buildings. An air exchanger is able to bring in fresh air from the outside while recapturing the heat from the stale air that it removes from the house. Some might call that magic, but really, it's just simple engineering. Before anything is built at New Air, engineers develop the systems and controls using 3D computer-aided design software. At the center of every air exchanger is the heat recovery core. The core consists of a number of sheets of corrugated polypropylene, which are laid by hand in an alternating orientation so that cold air flows one way and warm air flows in the opposite direction. The cube or core is then siliconed to an aluminum insulated base and insulated top. Plastic corners are then sealed and screwed into place. Another important part of the exchanger is the wiring and controller board. The controller board is made in Moncton, then programmed at the New Air factory. The programming is dependent upon the model and required use of the ventilator. Each New Air air exchanger starts life as a large sheet of either aluminum for residential units or galvanized steel for larger commercial units. The cutting of each piece of the air exchanger is controlled by the FinPower Shear Genius, a computer-controlled steel cutter that not only cuts the aluminum, but also cuts holes, bends flanges, and sorts the finished pieces from the scrap pieces. Sheets are first lifted onto the cutting table using a suction system. Rotating dies then cut the required segments and holes into the aluminum. Scrap is sent one way. The finished pieces are sent for further processing. Next, a worker uses a large computerized press brake to bend each section into its final box shape. This belt-driven brake is able to bend up to 1/2 inch thick steel. Each residential air exchanger contains 9 finished sheet metal pieces. Now all the parts are complete, it's time to assemble the finished product. First, a worker attaches hinges to the top section so the technicians will have easy access to the finished unit. Then insulation is siliconed into place, and pre-built fans are siliconed and screwed to the bottom section. The fans will move both the indoor and outdoor air through the ventilator. Once the top panel has been attached using rivets, plastic collars are siliconed and screwed to the bottom section. These will be used to attach the piping. Door latches are then attached to the bottom panel. Once this work has been completed, the worker will sign off the completed work and pass the unit to the next worker. This worker first installs more insulation and the drip tray. The drip tray will capture any accumulated moisture in the system. Next, more insulation is added, ensuring that the fan wiring is carefully fed to the controller. Guide bars that will later hold the recovery core are then added, as are wiring channels. Insulation is cut where the through holes are located. And once the unit has been vacuumed, more plastic collars are siliconed and screwed into place. All joints are then air sealed using silicone sealant. The residential unit includes a motorized damper system. The damper seals out cold outside air when there's a possibility of frost buildup inside the unit. Once the frost is melted, the damper will open again to allow fresh air to flow in. Once this is complete, the worker installs the power cable, signs off on their work, and passes the unit to the next worker. This worker will make all the wiring connections. First, the connectors are attached to the grounding wires. They are then attached to the cabinet. Then the wires from the two motors and the power cable are attached to the plugs that will then attach to the controller. A door switch is added. The controller is then screwed to the casing, and all the final connections are made. Once the wiring is complete, the worker tests the electrical connections to ensure everything works as expected. In the final stage of construction, a worker installs the heat recovery core, affixes the various labels, then thoroughly tests each operational aspect of the unit before the finished product is packaged for shipment to the final customer.
Maritime Made is presented by Nova Scotia Business Inc. because great things are happening.